morning. Welcome to the launch of the Turkey Energy Policy Review. My name is Jad Mawad. I'm the head of the communications office. This morning, we're very honored to be joined by Dr. Bayraktar, the Deputy Minister for Energy and Natural Resources for Turkey. We are going to be hearing this morning from Dr. Fatih Birol, the Executive Director of the IEA, as well as Divya Reddy, the IEA Energy Policy Analyst. Following the IEA presentation, we'll be hearing remarks from Dr. Bayraktar. This press conference is being live streamed, and for members of the media, you will have an opportunity to send us your questions through the Zoom Q&A. After the presentations, we'll take a short 2-minute break to collect your questions. The report is now online on our website, and this conference will last about 45 minutes. So without further ado, I would like to turn to Dr. Fatih Birol, our Executive Director. Thank
you. Greetings from International Energy Agency headquarters. Special greetings to Deputy Minister Mr. Bayraktar. Very nice to see you, Mr. Bayraktar, once again, and all the colleagues in Ankara, in the ministry, and also rest of Turkey and all those who are following this event. Dear colleagues, International Energy Agency is reviewing the energy policies of its member countries every 5 to 6 years, making a thorough review of the entire energy markets, the achievements, the developments in terms of energy security, in terms of the energy transformation, and make a report and suggest the recommendations for the betterment of the energy sector to our member countries. These reviews are conducted by different energy experts from several countries. In the case of Turkey, it was chaired by an energy expert from United Kingdom, but the team, including the experts from Switzerland, Germany, France, Spain, Poland, and the IEA Secretariat. I would very much like to thank the Minister of Energy and Natural Resources for hosting my colleagues through this review time, to Mr. Minister Fatih Dönmez, but a special thanks to also Deputy Minister Bayraktar and all the colleagues in the ministry engaging with my colleagues. The colleagues from different governments and countries also met. In addition to the Energy Ministry, they had meetings with the other ministries, regulators, energy companies, associations, system operators, NGOs, and academia. And as a result, we have made this report, which is available to all the interested parties, freely downloadable in our website. Now, what I will do before passing the floor to my colleague Divya Reddy for the detailed findings of Turkish energy markets, I would like to give a view about the global energy markets. Where are we today? And make some also comments on the developments in the Turkish energy markets. Now, the COVID was a major shock to global energy markets. Global energy demand declined about 4% last year, the biggest ever in the history, and all the sources of energies have been affected. The biggest impact was on oil, mainly as a result of a global economic downturn, but also lockdowns around the world, because the transportation is today at a large scale using oil products, gasoline, diesel, jet fuel, and we have seen as a result of the restrictions to travel, oil demand declined substantially. Coal saw also a major decline in Asia, in Europe, and in also in Americas. Gas about 3% decline. It is also mainly driven by the lower electricity generation needs, but also at the same time the economic impacts. Nuclear was not very much affected, but the interesting news was that the only fuel which did increase last year, despite the COVID, was renewables. Renewables, solar, wind, hydropower, when we look at them, group them together, renewables increased last year, lower than previous years, but having said that, the only fuel we have seen increasing last year, so we can easily say that the renewables they were immune to COVID. And as such, they have highlighted their resistance to COVID. When we look at the investments around the world, global energy investments, as many of you know, we look every year how much money is invested in the energy sector, to oil, gas, power plants, refineries. We have seen an unprecedented drop in global energy investments, close to 20% decline last year. And these changes in the energy sector is reflected also in the emissions. We have seen the global CO2, carbon dioxide emissions, as a result of the changes in the economy and the energy system decline sharply, but with some towards the end of the year in December, we are seeing that there is already an increase coming. It is because of the economic recovery, because of the lockdowns are lifted in some parts of the world, and which means that as of December 2020, global emissions were higher than December 2019, which means that if there are no major changes in the government policies around the world, with the economic recovery, with the strong economic rebound, the world may well go to business as usual energy pathway. A few words on renewables. Today, 2020, where we are, renewables are altogether put together. It is the wind, solar, hydro, geothermal. They are the second source of electricity generation, slightly higher than natural gas, but coal, years and years, coal has been the leader. Coal is still the leader in the year 2020. But when we look at the future, we see that the renewables are overtaking coal, and it is since several decades, coal's leadership in the electricity generation is going to go to history. This is driven by solar, wind, geothermal, hydropower. It is driven by the lower costs. And as I mentioned in January, last 2 months ago, I see solar is becoming the king of global electricity markets. Efficiency, a very important part of the sustainable energy system. When we look at the energy efficiency improvements around the world, we have seen on average about 1.5% improvement every year. But last year, it is a very poor year in terms of efficiency improvements. Very poor year. And this is much lower than the historical averages. And this is definitely a worrying, rather worrying trend when we look at the sustainability, because we believe renewables and efficiency are two bedrocks of the sustainable energy future. Another fuel technology, which is, we believe, important for electricity security and the emissions is nuclear power, depending on the country. I just wanted to highlight that some of us may forget that nuclear today is the second in the world, second source of low carbon electricity generation, just following hydropower, and responsible about 10% of the global electricity suppliers, and it is a major contributor to clean electricity. If you look at the advanced economies, namely North America, Europe, Japan, Korea, this part of the world, nuclear is in fact the number one source of low carbon electricity generation. And it has been so in the last 3 decades. Therefore, for the countries that do have nuclear in their electricity mix, we should underline its importance in terms of this baseload contribution, as well as the low emission generation character. Now, before going to my colleague, I would like to say a few things about the Turkey's progress in the last decade. How do we see it when we look at the last years? First of all, I think a critical achievement was that compared to 10 years ago, energy mix has been significantly changed, diversified compared to previous years. And a key role here was definitely the big success story of Turkey in terms of renewable energies. We have seen hydropower, solar, wind, geothermal, and as of last year, the renewable electricity generation was close to 42%, a major move. Another contribution to diversification of energy mix is the plans on nuclear. The first nuclear plant is under construction at Akkuyu, and as we read it, in fact, yesterday was an important milestone in terms of that important project. When we look at the last 10 years, another important development is that the energy efficiency is receiving a priority in energy policy making, and the targets to reduce the primary energy consumption significantly in the next few years is much appreciated, and it is important to put this target, but it is also very important to implement those targets and reach those targets. But having energy efficiency as a priority is, in my view, a very important move. Another development is the gas security. Turkey importing huge chunk of its gas use means the gas security is critical. And in the recent few years, the storage capacity increased substantially, And on top of that, we have seen a major gas find in Black Sea in Sakarya gas field, which was also important to improve the security of gas supply improvement. Finally, again, there are, of course, many achievements, many challenges, developments, but we wanted to pick up only the headlines. If I can look at another headline, it is the energy market liberalization. We see a serious advancement there, and we have seen major reforms, both in the gas and electricity sectors, which in turn help to improve the transparency and liquidity of those markets. With this, I would like to stop here and turn to my colleague Divya to continue.
Thank you, Dr. Birol. So now I'll briefly provide an overview of the main findings and recommendations from our report. To start with some context, Turkey's energy system is characterized by a large share of fossil fuels, which account for around 80% of total energy supply and around 70% of total final consumption. Nearly all of the oil and gas consumed is imported. So total domestic energy production accounts for around 30% of total supply. That said, Turkey has seen very impressive growth in renewables over the last decade, more than doubling since 2009, with rapid growth in geothermal, hydro, wind, and solar in particular. So now turning to Turkey's energy policy, rapid economic and population growth over the past 2 decades have not only driven strong demand for energy, strong energy demand growth, but also an associated increase in import dependency. As a result, Turkey has pursued a restructuring of its energy system with the aim of rationalizing energy demand, lowering energy prices for consumers, and slowing the pace of import growth. The government in April 2017 announced the National Energy and Mining Policy, which is based on 3 main pillars. The first is improving energy supply security. The second is increasing the use of domestic energy resources. And the third is improving predictability in energy markets. Already in the past 2 decades, Turkey has made considerable strides toward liberalization of its energy markets, in particular in the gas and electricity sectors. Nonetheless, in the gas sector, the dominant position of state-owned BOTAŞ remains, while in the electricity sector, power market support mechanisms such as subsidization and the obligated procurement by state-owned utility EUAŞ of a significant share of electricity generation can have an impact on overall system costs and efficiency. Turning now to security of oil and gas supply, given that the share of oil and gas production and consumption is low, Turkey has prioritized upstream development of oil and gas. This strategy has borne results recently with the August 2020 gas discovery in the Black Sea by state-owned TPAO, which represents the largest gas discovery in the country's history and could meaningfully lower its call on imports in the medium term, as well as improve its negotiating position vis-a-vis gas exporters. Still, Turkey will remain heavily dependent on oil and gas imports to meet its consumption needs for the foreseeable future. Turkey is also successfully diversifying its import sources and routes through the build-out of infrastructure. In the early 2000s, Russia was the dominant gas supplier to Turkey, but Turkey has began imports of gas from Iran in 2001 and from Azerbaijan in 2007. Turkey has recently further expanded its gas import infrastructure, including by introducing new pipelines, such as the Turk Stream route from Russia and the TANAP route from Azerbaijan. Several new FSRU terminals have been commissioned in recent years. Existing LNG entry capacity has increased, and new entry points are being connected to the gas network to ensure supply diversification. In addition, Turkey has undertaken major new upgrades to its storage capacity, which will also significantly lift the country's gas security. Along these lines, the government has also made big strides toward investing in its position as a regional energy trading center for gas. Turkey also recognizes that a primary foundation to improve energy security is to slow the rate of consumption growth by improving energy efficiency. To this end, the National Energy Efficiency Action Plan, covering the period from 2017 to 2023, aims to reduce Turkey's primary energy consumption by 14% from business as usual levels across several sectors, including electricity, buildings, industry, transport, and technology. The IEA welcomes these efforts and notes that additional effort will be needed to reach the 2023 targets. Some implementation gaps still remain across and within sectors, and policy progress has been slowed to some delays in secondary legislation, as well as insufficient demand or incentives for energy efficiency products and services, among other factors. Expanding domestic production of energy is also a priority for Turkey. The government expects that by 2023, 84% of new electricity generation capacity will come from domestic sources, out of which 76% will be renewables, while by 2027, 82% of new capacity will come from domestic sources, out of which 61% will be from renewables. With respect to renewables, Turkey has experienced very impressive growth in the past decade, driven by a favorable resource endowment, strong growth in energy demand, and supportive government policies. In particular, renewable electricity has nearly tripled since 2009 to reach a share of 44% in generation in 2019. Turkey aims to continue to promote the use of the expansion of renewables by commissioning 10 gigawatts each of solar and wind capacity over the period 2017 to 2027. The government offers feed-in tariffs for renewable power plants under the Renewable Energy Support Mechanism, or YEKDEM scheme, with supplemental support offered if plant components are manufactured in Turkey. In addition, in 2016, the government introduced the Renewable Energy Resource Areas, or YEKA scheme, which is a tender process for larger scale renewable generation projects in renewable energy zones. So far, these support schemes have been very successful in driving new investments into renewables. Building off the success, there could be scope for Turkey to raise its ambition of renewable electricity and to expand the penetration of renewables beyond electricity into other sectors such as heating. Turkey has also embarked on an ambitious nuclear power strategy. The country plans to install a total of 3 nuclear plants this decade, the first of which is the Akuyu nuclear power plant, which will comprise 4 units, and the first of those units is expected to be commissioned by the end of 2023. Finally, to reduce the use of imported gas and coal in the power sector, the government has pursued a plan to boost domestic production and consumption of Turkey's sizable coal reserves, with lignite in particular being a focus area. To advance these goals, the government provides several incentives to promote both coal mining as well as the use of more domestic coal in power generation. And finally, now looking at Turkey's CO2 emissions trajectory, Turkey's emissions have increased in line with strong energy demand growth led by the electricity and heat sectors. Though Turkey has low energy intensity compared to other IEA member countries, its energy consumption has significantly increased in recent decades due to both strong economic development and population growth, a trend that's expected to continue in coming years. Given that, the IEA believes Turkey has considerable room to decouple its economic and population growth from energy consumption in future years, boosted by policy measures, which will also have an impact in slowing the pace of emissions growth. As part of its INDC submitted to the UNFCCC, Turkey proposed to reduce its GHG emissions by 21% from a business as usual level by 2030. Given Turkey's economic and population growth, the business as usual baseline still allows for some growth in emissions from current levels. Turkey's INDC and its National Climate Change Action Plan focus on energy efficiency, renewables, and nuclear power as the main strategies to lower emissions. So with that, I'll turn the floor over back to Dr. Birol to wrap up with our recommendations for the government.
Thank you very much, Divya. So, dear Deputy Minister, dear colleagues, based on the visit of the expert team of different governments and our report, we would like to make some recommendations to Turkish government to consider for the next years to come. But before making those recommendations, I wanted to make sure that it is well understood we believe Turkey made notable strides in the last few years to liberalize its energy markets, boosting its security of supply, and diversifying energy mix. And our numbers show that the successful growth of renewables played a very important role reaching those very good results. Having said that, and building on this progress, we would like to recommend the following topics to Turkish government. First, we recommend to review the cost effectiveness and the distributional impact of the policy support given to domestic energy vis-a-vis over imports and alternative domestic sources. Second, we recommend that the Turkish government comes up with a definition of long-term emission reduction targets and local air pollution targets in line with its energy economic policies. Third, we recommend that the Turkish government to consider to gradually phase down the power market support mechanisms in order to keep the system costs down, as well as strengthen the incentives, market mechanisms, and access to finance for energy efficiency. The targets for energy efficiency, the National Energy Efficiency Action Plan is excellent, but providing strong incentives, building necessary market mechanisms, and providing access to finance and monitoring the developments will be also important. And finally, we are very impressed with the expansion of renewables in the energy mix. Further efforts here to making the most out of the Turkey's huge renewable energy potential, solar, wind, geothermal, bioenergy can be an important priority. And finally, I would like to say that we are very happy to support Turkish government as we have been doing in its next phase of energy sector development and securing a sustainable energy future. Thank you very much. And I turn over to my colleague, Ms. Mawad.
Thank you very much, Dr. Birol. Thank you very much, Divya. If I could now turn the floor, please, to Dr. Bayraktar. The floor is yours, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dear Dr. Birol, distinguished participants, dear representatives from media institutions. First of all, I would like to say this is a real privilege and honor for me to participate in this event. Today, we are launching IEA Turkey in-depth review report, and I want to thank the review team and the IEA Secretariat, Dr. Birol, to you for your valuable, hard, and dedicated work for this report and close cooperation with our colleagues at the Ministry. And I believe to better understand this report and Turkish energy market, it is essentially critical to know where we came from and how our market evolved over the last 2 decades. In this period of time, Turkish energy market has gone through a major transition. During the first phase of transition, which I call it transition 1.0, our market activities were unbundled and the vertically integrated state monopoly model turned into a competitive open market model. Together with that, we implemented very broad and ambitious privatization policy on generation and distribution assets. And we successfully completed this first transition period. And again, the main focus was structural change in the market with many different reforms. And as you refer in your report, after the announcement of the National Energy and Mining Policy in 2017, Turkish energy sector has entered into the second phase of transition, which prioritizes security of supply, localization, and predictability in the markets. There were 2 major motivations behind this policy. First, to reduce import dependency, which is extremely critical for Turkish economy. And secondly, to have a more sustainable and environmentally sound energy system. At this point, I would like to highlight once again renewables expansion in Turkey, since renewables are the very essential part of our energy transition. In the last 10 years, the average annual renewable energy install capacity increase rate was 11%. And with that, Turkey today ranks 6th in Europe and 13th in the world in terms of renewable energy install capacity, with approximately a little over 9,000 megawatt of wind and almost 7,000 megawatt of solar. And our aim is to add 1 gigawatt of solar and 1 gigawatt of wind power generation into our energy system each and every year over the next 10 years. In the year 2020, share of renewables in electricity generation, including large hydropower plants, was around 42%, also you mentioned in this report. More importantly, nearly all of 5 gigawatt additional capacity that we added in the year 2020 is based on renewable energy sources, almost all of it coming from renewables. And this week, this week, we are collecting investors' bids for 1,000 megawatt of solar tender. It will be small-scale solar power plants like 20 megawatts, 30 megawatt, but total 1,000 megawatts. And last couple of days, we witnessed enormous interest from investors for this capacity auction tender. We also have a very ambitious energy efficiency action program. Also, you referred in your report. It includes different sectors: energy, industry, agriculture, buildings, transportation, and cross-cutting sectors. And in this action plan, we identified 55 actions. And to implement this plan, we will make roughly $11 billion of investment until the year 2023. And our aim is to reduce primary energy consumption by 14%. And with that, we will be able to reduce our carbon emissions by 66 million tons per year. In the context of diversification and emission reduction objective, Turkey is also planning to generate electricity from nuclear power. We aim to put the first unit into operation at the Akkuyu nuclear power plant in 2023. And yesterday, as you said, an important milestone for Turkey, for Turkish nuclear program, I was in Akkuyu to participate the third unit first concrete ceremony. Hopefully in 2026, all 4 units, each with a capacity of 1,200 megawatts, will be operational at Akkuyu. We would like to have additional reactors in our energy mix, and we see that the nuclear is pretty essential fuel to fight with climate change globally. Natural gas is also quite crucial for Turkish energy market. It is important not only for industry or household, but also for power generation. We have very ambitious gas access program that we aim to bring gas each and every household in Turkey to have a better air quality in our cities. Turkey is the 4th largest gas market in Europe with around 50 billion cubic meter of annual consumption, and unfortunately almost fully imported. So we have some long-term contracts. We receive gas through pipelines from Russia, Azerbaijan, and Iran, but also we have imports through LNG. There are a couple of points that I would like to make here. First, diversification is quite crucial for our security of supply. That's why we decided to invest heavily on different infrastructure projects, international pipeline projects such as TANAP and Turkstream. We completed successfully those projects and now they are operational. We invested in to increase our regasification capacity. We added 2 new FSRUs and the construction for the third one is ongoing. We increased existing LNG terminal send-out capacity. Long story short, in the last 4 years, we quadrupled our regasification capacity. Also, we are increasing our underground storage capacity from 3.3 BCM to 10 BCM in the year 2023. The reason that we started to invest in gas infrastructure heavily is that we saw the global gas trade, is very famous golden age of gas in IEA, was moving towards more LNG since the shale boom in the US. US became net exporter of LNG and LNG prices became very competitive. Today, Turkey has technical infrastructure and can import 50% of its gas needs through LNG. This is very significant. We started to see this strategy and the result of this strategy with increasing share of LNG in our supply mix. Some of the figure I would like to share with you. In 2018, it was 22%. 2019, it was 28%. And the year 2020, last year, 31% of gas supply came to Turkey in LNG form. Strong gas infrastructure, diverse, competitive, and flexible gas supply is also important for us to integrate more renewables into our grid. We would like to add more renewables, and as I said earlier, we have very solid target for renewable energy, but we need to include these resources to our mix without giving up our system reliability and resilience and more market-friendly or less distortive way. As you recommended also in this report, we would like to increase the competition in the gas market. Market reforms and gas market restructuring are long-awaited issues, but this year we are pretty committed to open gas markets. Our 1/3 of long-term gas contracts are expiring this year, and this creates an opportunity to open up market into new players. And some new areas in natural gas sectors, such as cross-border trade and more liquidity on gas trade, will be seen in this new era. Our expectation from our existing suppliers and potential newcomers, new suppliers, to provide reliable, flexible, and competitive gas supply to Turkish market. Another important development for us was the Black Sea gas discovery. It was the largest offshore discovery in the world last year in Sakarya gas field, around 400 BCM gas. The production will start in 2023, very ambitious, very challenging target, and will reach plateau level production in the year 2026. We believe there is a significant potential in this area, so we are now acquiring seismic data for the remaining fields. It's too early to say something about the real potential of the site, but this could be a real game changer for Turkish energy market over the next few years and decades to come. The main motivation behind this discovery was to reduce our import bill and through that helping to reduce our current account deficit. The production of gas in this field will hopefully reduce energy prices for final consumers, and this will make our industry and manufacturing sectors more competitive, and hopefully it will provide more certainty about energy prices, which is an essential element for business community. Last but not least, I would like to mention about Turkey's position on Paris Agreement, since we haven't ratified the Paris Agreement. We are looking for a fair treatment in terms of defining Turkey as a developing country. Turkey is determined to contribute to global efforts on climate change, and as I explained earlier, doing many things to transform its energy markets towards cleaner and greener systems. But we believe we need to act with the basis of equity and within the framework of principle of common but differentiated responsibilities and respective capabilities. We raised this issue during the past COP meetings and in relevant forums, and hopefully it will be taken more constructively in this upcoming COP26. To conclude, I would like to say 2020 has been a very challenging year for the global energy sector. All countries around the world have been greatly affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. Turkey was quite successful in eliminating negative impacts of the pandemic by taking timely measures. One of our top priorities was ensuring the financial sustainability of energy sector, and we believe we achieved this. And after COVID, deployment of digital technologies in energy will be much faster. The key question for us and the main challenge for policymakers, how we will introduce these new elements in energy, such as distributed generation, demand side management, storage, electric vehicles, charging infrastructure, and hydrogen. What would be the right policies and regulations, as well as right incentives and market mechanisms? So these are the key questions ahead of us, and we would like to work with IEA again in these endeavors. Once again, I would like to express my gratitude and appreciation to our colleagues, both at the IEA and the Ministry, for this detailed and valuable report. And once again, thank you, Dr. Birol, for your contribution. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for your presentation. We are going to turn to the Q&A part of our session. We'll take a 2-minute break so we can collect the questions. If the reporters could please send their questions through the Q&A box, and we'll be right back. Thank you. questions and then address a couple of questions to Dr. Bayraktar and a couple of questions to Dr. Birol. The first two questions, sir, are for you, Dr. Bayraktar. What role do you see for geothermal energy in Turkey? And the second question from Rafiq Latta from Energy Intelligence. You mentioned, he asks, you mentioned that Turkey has plans for gas liberalization measures this year. And could you provide some details on those? I will read the next two questions for Dr. Birol, perhaps, and then I will give you the floor, Dr. Bayraktar. From Nuran Erkul from Anadolu News Agency. What sort of clean and low carbon technologies have the highest potential in Turkey in terms of attracting investment and growth opportunities? And what role can energy efficiency play in improving Turkey's energy picture and lowering emission? Sir, if I could turn the floor over to you, Dr. Bayraktar. Thank you.
Thank you. For geothermal, as you know well, we have a great potential, and in terms of utilization of our capacity, we already introduced 1 gigawatt of installed capacity in terms of geothermal, and we would like to add and utilize the rest of the potential with more market-friendly incentive mechanisms, and we'll definitely will introduce more geothermal into our energy mix. Second question, I would like to, little bit more detail, I would like to talk about the gas market liberalization. As you also referred in your report, the structural change in the market for the electricity was very significant. We turned completely the market structure over the last 15-20 years, and we were able to attract many private capital and investment to energy sector. But unfortunately, the gas side market reforms were a little bit behind the schedule, and the main reason was behind this to have less flexible and long-term gas contracts and kind of old-fashioned contracts. So having those supply mechanisms and 100% reliance on the imported resources were the main bottleneck for the market liberalization in the gas. But now the investment on the infrastructure and diversifying our gas supply were giving us a strong hand in terms of introducing these market reforms. As I referred in my remarks, about 1/3 of gas contracts, long-term contracts, are going to expire. So Turkey is ready to receive more gas from different directions, different countries, and different forms. So in the next phase of gas supply, Turkey will be able to receive more flexible, again, more competitive gas contracts and gas supply, and we will be able to introduce these market reforms. Most likely tomorrow, you're going to hear from President Erdogan while he's introducing an economic reform package, and you will see our energy market reforms in that framework document, which is very essential to show the Turkish government commitment to the market reforms on the gas side. And hopefully this time we will be able to achieve also market liberalization on the gas side. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Minister. So the question I received from Anadolu News Agency, what sort of clean energy technologies highest potential in Turkey, and also question about the energy efficiency. I think Mr. Deputy Minister mentioned eloquently in detail the success story of Turkish renewable energy sector. Solar, wind, hydropower, geothermal, all great stories. And our numbers show that the Turkish renewable capacity increased more than 50% in the last 5 years, a huge success story. Having said that, when we look at the potential, there is still much to do. Turkey perhaps doesn't have the biggest oil, gas, coal fields and potential, but Turkey has a huge renewable energy potential. again, our numbers show that even the numbers we reach today in solar makes a few percent of the potential. It is the same for wind and onshore wind, and there's a lot of potential for offshore wind. In addition to renewables, I would very much like to once again highlight the importance of the changes in the international car manufacturing, strongly growing direction of the electric cars around the world. And we are seeing that many governments are even banning of selling internal combustion engine cars. Several car companies around the world, in Europe, in Japan, in the United States, are putting electric cars in their portfolios in big terms. So, and the automotive industry in Turkey is critical, very important in terms of employment, in terms of contribution to the economy. So therefore, it may be good to reinforce the already very good initiatives that we have in Turkey, in Gemlik, in the TOK initiative, and continue to make the electric cars part of the Turkish energy system. One final word on energy efficiency. As I said, the Energy Efficiency National Action Plan is very well designed, but again, the financing, having the right legislation, and addressing the market distortions in the energy sector, as well as monitoring the developments, will be critical to reach those plans which are put for 2023. Both the energy efficiency, renewables, together with other clean energy technologies, including the nuclear power, may well help Turkey to reduce its emissions and to join the, as Mr. Deputy Minister said, join the other countries around the world to have a low carbon trajectory. I stop here and turn back to you.
Thank you very much, Executive Director. We are a little bit over time, but there is one last question I would like to perhaps send over to Dr. Bayraktar from William Powell from Natural Gas Europe, who's asking, are there any plans to unbundle and privatize BOTAS? Thank you.
Well, very short answer. Yes, we are in the market reforms, we're planning to unbundle BOTAS. But as far as today, we don't have any privatization action for BOTAS, but definitely unbundling will be the key area for market reforms in the gas. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for your answer. We have many questions. We will respond to the journalists by email. I would like to thank you, Dr. Bayraktar, for your presence. And this concludes the presentation of the Turkey Energy Policy Review for today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.